Well, I did another day of disability medical evaluations. Sometimes it seems that's all I ever do. And I had some interesting patients and interesting experiences that I thought would be instructive to other people who are going to have a disability medical evaluation. There were some fails and there were some wins, so that's what I'll talk about today. And to finish, I'm going to talk a little bit about disability and depression, because my views on the subject are a bit heterodox. Hello, I'm John Foster. I'm a medical doctor who does disability exams for Social Security. I've done over 1,500, and as usual, everything I say reflects my own opinions based on my own experience and study, and not the opinions of the Social Security Administration or any other medical body. Now, one of the patients I saw had several problems, and one of them was that recently they'd fallen and bruised a knee. And it was a relatively minor bruise, but they went into detail about how they fell, the doctor they'd seen, and the physical therapy they were prescribed. And then shortly after telling me that, they stated that they can't remember anything. And that's the first fail, and the lesson here is don't exaggerate. Be accurate in your description of your problems. Doctors have actually seen people who can't remember anything. There's a very interesting medical condition called Korsakoff's psychosis, usually caused by a combination of chronic alcoholism and vitamin deficiency, where the person is completely unable to store any short-term memories. There's a somewhat cruel but interesting test that's done with such patients if you're doing morning rounds. If they're at their bedside table eating their breakfast, you can take away their breakfast tray and then talk to them for a minute or two and then ask them, "Where's your breakfast?" And they won't remember at all that they had their breakfast tray just a minute or two and that you took it away. So don't exaggerate. Another fail that I saw that's common is a man who showed up 47 minutes late. And since I have patients scheduled every 30 minutes, he was at risk of not getting an exam at all that day. Luckily for him, I'd had a patient who hadn't showed up, so I had a free slot and I was able to examine him. The reason he was late was that he couldn't find the office. So the second lesson is find out where your exam is going to be held ahead of time. That's your job. We're not going to come to your home and take you to our office. There's a telephone number on the letter that Social Security sends you for your exam appointment, and it's the number to call our office. And if you get lost, our medical assistant will help you and give directions. Also, the morning of Social Security disability exams, the medical assistant calls everyone scheduled for an appointment that day to make sure they know it's that day for their appointment and to make sure they know how to get to the office. And if she can't reach them on the first try, she tries again, and if she can't reach them on the second try, she tries a third time. So make sure your phone is turned on and can accept calls, and if your phone rings, answer the phone. That's your job. We can't do it for you. And a win that I had a person who'd been on disability for 10 years and was coming in for an exam because they were undergoing a continuing disability review. And like most such patients, this person was kind of upset and anxious that their disability benefits would be terminated. Well, this person had bad rheumatoid arthritis, and rheumatoid arthritis is a progressive disease. It gets worse with time. It doesn't get better. And on my exam, this person was obviously quite disabled, and I'm sure my exam would help him to continue his disability benefits. So unless you're one of those unusual situations where after a period of years your disabling condition goes away or improves, you're not going to lose your disability benefits at a review. Another sort of loss, sort of win I had was a person who, as soon as I greeted them, I could see was determined to be as sarcastic and snarky and disagreeable as possible. And I get such patients on a regular basis, and I'm not sure what motivates them. And I've tried various ways of dealing with their disagreeableness. And lately, what I've found that seems to work the best is I simply point out that they're being disagreeable. And typically, they'll say some version of, "No, I'm not." And then I'll point out that their disagreeing with me is further disagreeableness. And I'll remain calm and not express anger. And often these people will become intrigued and want to know more about how they're presenting, and will often change their behavior and be more agreeable, which is what this person did. I'm not sure what's going on with these folks. I asked this person, "How do you think that your disagreeable behavior will help you to get Social Security disability benefits?" I talked about this with a therapist friend of mine, and they thought the people might be responding positively because, one, I'm not showing fear or anger at their unpleasant behavior. I'm just showing curiosity. And two, I'm seeing them for who they really are. I'm still not sure what's going on with these folks, but I'm glad I found a way to smooth things out with quite a few of them. Another win that I had two people who brought in photographs on their phones that were quite helpful. One of them had had a bad ankle and foot fracture and had a rod put through their tibia, their shin bone, and the rod had actually broken. And they showed me a picture of the x-ray where I could see the broken rod, which was quite helpful for their evaluation. The other person had broken their thigh bone and had a rod put in the thigh bone, and the rod hadn't broken, but the bone hadn't healed up after months and months, which was quite puzzling as they had no risk factors for a broken bone not healing. But they showed me a photo of their x-ray, and there was no doubt the rod was there, but the thigh bone hadn't healed up a bit. And let me tell you, if you have a broken thigh bone you're trying to walk on, you're disabled. I had a third patient I wish had taken photos of their problem. Photographs are particularly useful if you have a condition that comes and goes, like swelling in the joint or a bad rash, because I can guarantee you on the day you're scheduled to see the doctor, your rash will fade away or your swollen joint will shrink down. This patient had had a leg amputation and wore a prosthetic leg, and they had a big problem in that the skin of the stump of the leg that fit into the prosthesis kept breaking down and ulcerating and getting infected. Now, people who have a good stump with healthy skin generally can get around, stand, and walk pretty well. But if the skin is ulcerated or infected, they're basically on crutches or in a wheelchair. When I saw this person, they didn't have any active ulceration or infection. I could see the locations where they'd had ulcers that had healed, but I wish they'd taken photographs when their skin was broken down. And one thing about photographs, if you're going to show the doctor photographs, make sure you can locate them immediately. One of the most frustrating things for me is when a patient wants to show me a photograph and then they get out their phone and they scroll, and they scroll, and they scroll, and they try to find their photograph in the 20,000 pictures they've stored on their phone. Put your medical photographs in a folder where you can locate them immediately. Another win, and I'm not sure if I have anything to do with it, is that I seem to be getting less people who begin their history by describing their MRI. As I've talked about in a lot of videos, an MRI is supporting evidence for a disability claim, but it's not the most important thing. The most important thing are your symptoms and what the doctor finds on your physical exam. And when it comes to symptoms, speak in your own words. Nobody wakes up one day who's been healthy in the past and says, oh my God, my L4-5 disc is herniated, I can feel it, and I have sciatica and a bulging disc at L2-3. What they do is they wake up and they say, oh my God, my back hurts and I can't bend down to tie my shoes and there's this tingling going down my left leg. So describe your problems to the doctor in your own words. Don't describe your MRI. Also, Social Security already has your MRI results. If they could have determined if you were disabled from your MRI, they wouldn't have sent you to a doctor. Unless your MRI report shows something that would make you completely paralyzed from the waist down, there's no way a doctor can tell what all problems you have from your MRI alone. And believe it or not, there's no way a doctor can even tell if your back or neck hurt from your MRI alone.